Hi viewers, my name is Emma Carter. I grew up in one of the wealthiest families in Surrey, England. Our mansion looked like something from a movie. We had marble floors, crystal chandeliers, expensive paintings, and a beautiful garden that stretched farther than I could see. People thought we had the perfect family. They were wrong. Behind those elegant walls lived a father who believed money mattered more than love. Growing up, I always wanted to make him proud. Every school report, every achievement, every birthday, every Christmas, I hoped he would finally smile at me and say, "I'm proud of you, Emma." But those words never came. Instead, my father compared me to my younger brother, James. "Why can't you be more like him? You'll never be good enough. You're too emotional to run this family." Those words followed me through my entire childhood. My mother never defended me. She would simply lower her head and stay silent. Her silence hurt almost as much as my father's cruelty. As the years passed, I stopped expecting kindness. Still, I never imagined what would happen on Christmas Eve. That morning, our mansion looked magical. Fresh snow covered the gardens. Golden lights decorated every tree. The dining table was prepared for more than 30 guests. Business partners, family friends, relatives. Everyone had been invited to our annual Christmas celebration. I spent hours helping the staff prepare everything. Even after everything my father had done, I still wanted the evening to be perfect. Maybe this Christmas would finally change everything. Maybe, for the first time, he would treat me like his daughter. I bought him a beautiful leather notebook engraved with his initials. It wasn't expensive compared to the gifts everyone else bought, but I chose it with love. I wrapped it carefully and placed it beneath the giant Christmas tree. As evening arrived, luxury cars filled our driveway. Guests entered the mansion laughing and exchanging gifts. Christmas music played softly in the background. For a few moments, everything felt peaceful. Then my father walked into the grand hall. The entire room became silent. He raised his glass and welcomed everyone. People applauded. Then he looked directly at me. The smile on his face disappeared. "Before we continue," he said loudly, "I have something important to announce." I felt my stomach tighten. Every guest turned toward us. My father slowly walked across the room until he was standing only a few feet away from me. His eyes were cold. "Emma," he said, "I've spent years hoping you would become someone worthy of this family." He paused. "You've disappointed me every single time." The room became painfully quiet. I wanted the floor to open beneath my feet. He continued speaking. "You have no future in my company. You'll never inherit this business. You are an embarrassment to the Carter name." I could hear whispers spreading through the guests. Some looked shocked, others looked away. Nobody spoke. I felt tears filling my eyes. "Dad," I whispered, "please." He interrupted me immediately. "No, this family deserves strength. You only bring weakness." I looked toward my mother. She wouldn't even meet my eyes. James stood beside my father without saying a single word. In that moment, I realized I was completely alone. Then came the sentence that changed my life forever. "Leave this house." At first, I thought I had misunderstood him. He pointed toward the front door. "Leave, tonight, and don't ever come back." I stood frozen. Guests stared at me in complete silence. I could barely breathe. "Dad, it's Christmas Eve." He looked at two security guards. "Escort Miss Carter outside." Within seconds, they walked toward me. One quietly picked up my small suitcase that had already been packed. My heart stopped. He had planned this. Before tonight, before the guests arrived, he had already decided to throw me away. I walked slowly toward the front door. No one tried to stop me. Not my mother, not James, not my relatives, not even the people who had watched me grow up. The heavy wooden doors closed behind me. The freezing winter air hit my face. Snowflakes landed softly on my coat. Inside the mansion, I could still hear laughter. Christmas music, glasses clinking. It was as if I had never existed. I stood alone outside the gates with one suitcase and less than £50 in my purse. I looked back at the glowing mansion one final time. For 25 years, I had called it home. Now, it belonged to strangers. A single tear rolled down my cheek. Then I wiped it away. Because something changed inside me that night. If my father believed I was worthless, I would spend the rest of my life proving him wrong. Not through revenge, not through anger, But through success, I quietly whispered to myself as the snow continued falling over the empty road. You may have taken my home, but you'll never take my future. Without looking back again, I walked into the cold Christmas night, not knowing that this was the first step toward becoming richer, stronger, and happier than anyone inside that mansion could ever imagine. The freezing wind cut through my coat as I walked away from the only home I had ever known. It was Christmas Eve. Every house around me glowed with warm lights. Families laughed together inside, children opened presents, and Christmas songs echoed through the streets. I had nowhere to go. My phone buzzed. For 1 second, I believed it was my mother calling. Instead, it was a message from the family accountant. Per your father's instructions, all your bank cards have been cancelled. You no longer have access to any family accounts. I stared at the screen. Then I laughed, not because it was funny, because I couldn't believe how completely my father had erased me from his life. I checked my purse. 47 pounds. That was everything I owned. I found a small budget hotel near the train station and paid for one night. The tiny room was cold, the wallpaper was peeling, and the bed squeaked every time I moved. It was nothing like the luxury bedroom I had left behind. Yet for the first time in years, no one was yelling at me. That night, I looked out of the window and made myself a promise. I will never beg to go back. The next morning, on Christmas Day, I boarded a train to London. The city was quiet, but full of opportunity. I rented the smallest room I could find in East London. The room was barely big enough for a single bed, a chair, and a tiny desk. The roof leaked whenever it rained. The heating barely worked, but it was mine. Finding work wasn't easy. Most employers looked at my CV and asked why someone from such a wealthy family wanted an entry-level job. I never told them the truth. Eventually, I found work in a small cafe. Every morning, I woke up before sunrise. I served coffee, cleaned tables, washed dishes, smiled at strangers. After work, I attended evening business classes. I studied until midnight. Then I repeated the same routine the next day. Weeks became months. Months became years. There were days when I wanted to give up. Sometimes I cried quietly in my tiny room. Sometimes I skipped meals just to pay the rent. Sometimes I wondered if my father had been right about me. But every time those thoughts appeared, I remembered the moment those mansion doors closed behind me. That memory became my motivation. One rainy afternoon, an elderly customer visited the cafe. His name was Mr. William Harris. He came every Thursday. Unlike most customers, he always asked how I was doing. One day he noticed a business book sticking out of my backpack. "You study business?" he asked. I smiled. Every night. He looked surprised. "You work all day and still study?" "I have a dream," I replied. He smiled. "Good." A week later, he invited me to interview at his technology company. I couldn't believe it. It wasn't a huge company, but it was my first real opportunity. I worked harder than anyone else. I arrived first, left last, asked questions, learned everything I could. Within a year, I earned my first promotion. For the first time, someone believed in me. Mr. Harris became the mentor I had never had. He never judged me by my family name. He judged me by my work. His confidence changed my life. I began saving every pound I earned. Instead of buying expensive clothes, I invested in online courses. Instead of luxury holidays, I invested in my future. Slowly, my savings grew, my knowledge grew, my confidence grew. One evening, Mr. Harris called me into his office. "I have an idea," he said. "I think you're ready to start leading projects." My hands shook. No one has ever trusted me with something this important. He smiled warmly. "Then it's about time someone did." That project became a huge success. Soon, clients began requesting to work with me personally. My reputation spread across London. Years earlier, I had been the girl standing alone in the snow with one suitcase. Now, people respected my ideas. My voice mattered. One night, while walking home, I stopped outside the window of a luxury shop. The display reminded me of my old life. For a moment, I thought about my father. Did he ever regret what he had done? Did my mother ever think about me? Did James ever wonder where I was? I didn't know, and for the first time, I realized I no longer needed the answers. Because my future was no longer connected to my past. I had built something with my own hands. No family money, no family name, no special treatment, only determination, only hard work, only hope. Little did I know, life was preparing one final surprise. A surprise that would bring me face to face with the man who had thrown me out on Christmas Eve. And this time, everything would be different. 5 years passed, 5 Christmases came and went. The young woman who had once stood alone outside her family's mansion with a single suitcase no longer existed. I had built my own technology consulting company in London. We helped struggling businesses modernize, improve their finances, and grow again. We started with 3 employees. Now we had more than 200. Our clients trusted us. Our reputation was growing across the UK. One Monday morning, my assistant placed a file on my desk. "Emma," she said, "this company has requested an urgent meeting. They need help immediately." I opened the folder. The company name made my heart stop. Carter Holdings, my father's company. For several minutes, I couldn't move. Memories came rushing back. The Christmas tree, the guests, the snow, the heavy doors closing behind me. I slowly closed the file. Life had brought us together again. A week later, I walked into the company's headquarters in London. Everything looked familiar. The marble floors, the expensive artwork, the smell of polished wood. It reminded me of the mansion I had lost. The receptionist smiled politely and guided me into the boardroom. Several directors were already waiting. Then the door opened. My father walked inside. His hair had turned gray. His shoulders looked heavier. He glanced at me without recognition. He sat down and began speaking about the company's financial crisis. Sales had fallen. Investors were leaving. The business that had once made him powerful was close to collapse. I listened quietly. When the presentation ended, he finally looked directly at me. His eyes widened. For several seconds, he couldn't speak. I smiled politely. "Good morning, Mr. Carter." The room became completely silent. He looked shocked. I didn't know. I interrupted gently. "I'm here as the CEO of my company. Nothing more, nothing less." He lowered his eyes. For the first time in my life. My father looked nervous. We discussed business for almost 2 hours. I presented a recovery plan that could save the company. Every director supported my proposal. Only my father remained silent. Finally, he spoke. "Would everyone please give us a few minutes alone?" The boardroom slowly emptied. Only the 2 of us remained. For a long moment, neither of us spoke. Then he quietly said, "I was wrong." Those 4 words carried more weight than anything he had ever said to me. I believed success only belonged to the strongest. I thought I was protecting the family. I didn't realize I was destroying it. I looked at him calmly. I spent years wondering why I wasn't enough. He lowered his head. "You were always enough. I was the one who failed." Tears filled his eyes. "I lost my daughter because of my own pride. I've regretted that Christmas Eve every single day. For years, I had imagined this moment. I thought I would feel anger. I thought I would demand revenge. Instead, I felt peace, because I no longer needed his approval. I had already found my own worth. I handed him the contract. "My company will help save Carter Holdings." He looked surprised. "After everything I did?" I nodded. "I'm helping the employees. They shouldn't lose their jobs because of our mistakes." He quietly signed the agreement. As I stood to leave, he asked one final question. "Will you come home?" I smiled softly. My home isn't the mansion anymore. My home is the life I built. Outside the building, snow began falling again. Just like it had 5 years earlier. But this time, I wasn't carrying one small suitcase. I was carrying confidence, freedom, and a future that belonged entirely to me. A few months later, Carter Holdings recovered successfully. My father retired from the business. He apologized publicly to our family and admitted his mistakes. Our relationship slowly healed. It was never perfect, but it became honest. That Christmas, I invited my employees, friends, and the people who had supported me when I had nothing. We laughed. We shared stories. We celebrated together. And for the first time in many years, Christmas truly felt like Christmas. Because I finally understood something important. Family is not defined by the house you grow up in. It is defined by the people who stand beside you when you have nothing. If someone ever tells you that you are not good enough, don't waste your life trying to prove them wrong. Spend your life proving yourself right. Sometimes the greatest comeback isn't becoming richer than the people who hurt you. It's becoming happier than they ever expected.